Well, the Big D is live this Monday evening talking about tropical storm or what will become Hurricane Idalia'a later tonight or early tomorrow morning. Before I tell you where Idalia'a is going and how strong will she be, please subscribe, like, and share the Swanky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. You can only see the stream, but all the videos I host about the Big D podcast. Speaking of the Big D podcast, we'll be back with all kinds of content, NFL previews, UFC, you name it. Name it. You can also check out for any audio podcasts on Spotify and Apple. So yes, mainly I post content on sports. I am the sports encyclopedia, but I'm also a weather geek. Okay, I've spent my whole life in Florida and know how vulnerable and not only have experienced many hurricanes, but also know the vulnerabilities of this great state we live in. Yeah. And I don't know what it is, but I don't want another ice storm. But unfortunately, we got another ice storm on its way. Tropical storm Idalia is next up, and she is coming very quickly. As of 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 Eastern, winds 70 miles an hour, not gusts to what, 80, 85 miles an hour. This thing's a hurricane. It's not a question of if Idalia becomes a hurricane, but when. In fact, be honest with you, I'm surprised it has been named, but I don't believe the hurricane hunters got in there, got a great look at 5 p.m. They're sampling the data, but when the hunters get in there, I firmly expect Adalia to reach hurricane status, that's not and that's not surprising one bit. In fact, the only thing surprising might be that Adalia hasn't really become hurricane. And you may think, why hasn't Adalia become a hurricane? Well, let me see. You see where it is. All this area out in the Gulf is wide open space for a hurricane because yes, there is some northerly wind shear around the center, but that wind shear is probably going to dissipate or become more of a southerly wind shear, which means instead of potentially limiting what the storm could do, Adalia has got a chance to not only intensify, but rapidly intensify. And I mean, it's 70, 75 miles an hour, but this thing has got a chance of becoming pretty severe. In fact, let me see if I can look up the message. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Sorry, wrong. That is the wrong one. Ah, shoot. Looking up for. Ah, there it is. There is a danger of life-threatening storm surge inundation along portions of the Florida Gulf Coast, and this from the National Hurricane Center at 5 p.m. Eastern, where a storm surge warning is in effect, including Tampa and the Big Bend region of Florida, inundation of 8 to 12 feet above ground level between the River. Residents in these areas should follow any advice given by local officials. Hurricane condition and what what being 8 to 12 feet above normally high ground means. Let's just say you're at 0 feet 6 inches, 0 feet 0 inches. I'm 6'3", so this surge is well over my height, and 6 inches of water can knock a person off kilter. 2 feet can flood a car. And as Hurricane Ian proved in Southwest Florida last year, you get a monster storm on the Gulf Coast, bad things are going to happen, because while the East Coast is vulnerable to surge from the Atlantic, people on the Gulf Coast, whether you're in Brownsville, Texas, or Chelsea, Florida, all face the continental shelf, and the continental shelf basically creates it's low. I mean, yeah, if you've ever been in the Gulf, it's it's great to swim in, because you're not at a you're not deep in the water. But guess what happens when a hurricane comes? That continental shelf means the storm surge can pile up, and no matter where it is, it could be Naples, or it could be Big Bend, Tampa, maybe the Panhandle. All these, all the Florida Gulf Coast is so vulnerable to surge, especially when you get a big hurricane. Yes, there's believe it will be a super high tide coming, because full moon on Wednesday. So while that is bad that high tide could add another couple feet. The high tides here aren't the high tides that people on the East Coast will get. So places like Savannah, Chatham County, Charleston, Wilmington, or even Miami would be in a more vulnerable area than a place like Cedar Key. So that is one saving grace. Hurricane condition on spectrum within portion of the hurricane warning area along the Florida Gulf Coast, with the potential for destructive winds where the core of Idalia moves onshore. Strong winds will also spread inland across portion of northern Florida. And the 5 p.m. cone showed a couple interesting changes. One, the cone shifted a little bit west. We've seen some of the models shift eastward, but the models shifted more westward, and the cone shifted westward. Because if anybody, especially in Southwest Florida, remembered what Hurricane Ian did, the models originally had it going close to where Idalia'a is going, but it kept going south, 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 and eventually made landfall in Southwest Florida. What Idalia's been doing is more the windshield wiper effect. It's going like, if people use their windshield wipers in Southwest Florida or anywhere where it rains, and went like do, 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 do. So it's going like left, right, left, right. So the path is easier to predict if it's staying in a general area, because it's not going like down here, and it's like, how far south is it going to get? Now, in fact, all Southwest Florida is out of the cone. But let me tell you this: as someone who remembered Charlie looking like it was going to hit Tampa, Irma looking like it was going to hit Tampa, Hurricane Ian looking like it was going to hit Tampa, I'm not going to breathe easy until Idalia's finished. And B, even if the storm goes to Tampa or Cedar Key or heck, Apalachicola, we're going to get some effects. Now, some of those effects might actually be good because Southwest Florida's in a major drought. I think we're like 9-10 inches below normal. It's weird you say Florida's in a drought when the summer's our rainy season, but Southwest Florida could use the rain. And unlike Ian, which moved very slowly, I think of this hurricane when it comes when it comes near us tomorrow, could potentially be a pretty decent rainmaker. I think that it's going to be moving at a decent clip. It's moving at let me see. For the last update, it was, I believe, 7 or 8 miles an hour. So, but there's a big dip in the jet stream, plus potentially a little residual effect from Hurricane Franklin, which is out in the Atlantic. By the way, Hurricane Franklin is a monster, but luckily not a threat, other than maybe some rip currents to the East Coast. I think Bermuda will largely escape the wolves of Franklin, but still a big time hurricane, potential Cat 5, 4 or 5. That is, Hurricane Franklin's a monster, but luckily not hitting, or likely not hitting anywhere near the U.S. But Idalia certainly is. And the Idalia's winds at landfall now reached 120 miles an hour, which wouldn't be a borderline major hurricane. It'd be a middle Cat 3 hurricane because Cat 1's 74 to 95, Cat 2's 96 to 110, Cat 3's 111 to 130, Cat 4 130. So we could be looking at another major hurricane impacting Florida. And by the way, Tampa has not been hit by a major hurricane in 102 years. And it seems like there have been about 102 hurricanes that have gone somewhere near Tampa since then. Could this be one? Well, the cone, Tampa is outside of the cone for now. But even if the storm goes to Cedar Key, there's a great potential of Tampa getting hammered. Because if anybody's been to Tampa, particularly near the water, they've got a unique funnel that can actually enhance the water. If anybody remembers what Hurricane or Superstorm Sandy did to New York City, there could be, or even New Orleans, there could be a similar problem where all that water just keeps coming up, and causes big time problems. It could. I mean, if anybody's traveled to Tampa, St. Pete, you know where the Skyway Bridge is. That could be very much in danger. Not just from, maybe not from surge, but definitely from wind. Because once you get like 40, 50 feet above the ground, the winds will definitely be higher. So if Tampa got, let's say, 80-mile-an-hour winds, the Skyway Bridge could easily see winds 90 and 100 miles an hour. Two other problems. One, Tampa's buildings haven't been hit in over 100 years. So, yeah, a lot of new buildings now are capable of withstanding Category 4 winds. All houses here in Estero are built to withstand 150-mile-an-hour winds. But Tampa's got some older buildings that may or may not be able to withstand winds. And also, Tampa's residents know what's happened. Those people know that every time a hurricane seemingly sniffs the Tampa area, it either goes west, or goes south. So complacency is an issue. Just because you evacuate, and it's not an easy choice because you think, well, I'm going to get out of state and head to Atlanta. that can actually be a mistake because some people in the Tampa Bay area would have left to, let's just say, Orlando for Charlie or Ian. And guess what happened? Orlando got more of the hurricane effects than Tampa. Because Charlie was supposed to hit Tampa and ended up making a right turn, the Captiva, Punta Gorda, and Arcadia, eventually hitting Orlando. Well, Tampa really didn't get anything. And then, of course, Ian looked like it was going to hit Tampa and ended up flooding a good deal of Orlando. So, Tampa is so vulnerable. Plus, I think this was the 2020 hurricane season. Ada produced some significant storm surge in Tampa, and that wasn't even really a major hit. Ada just produced a lot of storm surge in Tampa, flooded a good number of homes. So, if a hurricane heads north, and you may think, well, if the hurricane goes north, the surge is not going to be there. Well, that can actually be worse because when the winds shift and if the winds become more of a southwest wind, the surge can pile into the bay and cause massive problems, cause big time problems. So, believe Hillsborough, I believe Hillsborough Pinellas are going to issue evacuation, not have already issued evacuation. So, things are going to be interesting. And also, you go up the road, potentially Cedar Key, some of those places where Hurricane Hermine hit in 2016. Could this hurricane be stronger than Hermine, which produced minimal Cat 1 effects? I believe it can be strong. I believe it can and probably will be stronger than Hermine. And we saw what Hermine did, producing some storm surge. Not major damage, but some damage in the Big Bend area. And also, could this hurricane potentially take a path similar to Hurricane Michael, which devastated Panama City and Mexico Beach? Not out of the question. I don't know if it'll get that far west, but we've seen hurricanes do crazy things. I mean, it looked like Michael was going to devastate Panama City Beach and ended up going more toward Panama City. Mexico Beach ended up really destroying the Air Force Base. And despite a potential faster moving storm, there could be a lot of rain for areas of Florida. Now, some of the rain could be beneficial because our state is in a drought, but too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. And just because you're not on the coast doesn't mean you won't escape the damage. I remember Hurricane Charlotte. Arcadia was not in any projected cone and yet saw winds over 100 miles an hour. Orlando saw significant effects from Charlie and Ian. So just because you're not inland, I think of a place like Tallahassee, if it went more on the western path, Gainesville, Ocala, even, I can't believe I'm saying this, Jacksonville, because a hurricane is not going to stop based on where. A hurricane's not going to stop after it hits land. It's going to continue. So, while places near the coast are going to take the brunt of the storm, that doesn't mean a place inland won't escape effects. I can remember damage. I can remember Atlanta Speedway being hit by a tornado during a hurricane, and Surge is going to be an issue. I mean, storm surge watches and warnings are basically from the Keys northward throughout most of the state, with the majority of the surge hitting in the Big Bend slash Eastern Panhandle. Now, I know what people are saying. What's happening in the state? Right now, it's actually not that. Right now, I mean, I may look calm and cool on the inside, but the outside, I am frying. I am frying my brains. I know until this storm gets north of us, I'm going to be pulling out my hair for the next 36 hours. But I think if the storm continues on its path, I think Italia will more or less graze. I don't believe we would be in. I don't believe we would be in the path of storm. Let me see if I can look up. Ah, but if this, but sorry, technology is always fun to deal with. But if the storm stays on its path or close to its path, the storm should pass by quite a bit west of us, meaning we would be out of the probably out of the hurricane force winds. We probably get wind gusts, probably get winds maybe 20, 30, maybe 40 miles an hour, and wind gusts probably 40 to 50. And most of the the heavier, I don't even want to call it heavy, most of the gusty winds would occur on the coastline and northward. So potentially Charlotte County could get heavy winds, and let's just say Chelsea, but I don't believe we would end up getting the anywhere near what Ian produced last year. Now, I'm not sure you could hear that, but knock on wood, that's if the hurricane doesn't change. If the hurricane comes closer, we're going to get more impact. If the hurricane stays in where it is, we'll get the same impact. If the same impact, if the hurricane goes west, we won't get that much impact. But I feel better watching the 5 o'clock cone than I did at this point during Ian last year, because Ian's models kept going south, south, south. Idalia's going more that windshield wiper. Right, left. So the models are in more agreement here. I think what happened during Ian last year is that the American GFS model kept showing more westward northerly track, which may have confused, I don't know, which might have confused the Hurricane Center into thinking Ian's going to stay more north and not make that right turn to Cape Coral, Norfolk, Myers, a la what Charlie did. And because it made that turn sooner, the storm could hit as a Cat 4, 150 mile an hour winds. So, Lee County schools closed tomorrow. Charlotte County schools tomorrow. I've heard all the colleges are either remote or not have a class tomorrow. College may very well be next, but I'm feeling better about this because the models are more in agreement from Tampa through Cedar Key and Points North. So for now, Adalia will be heading very close to Cuba later tonight, early tomorrow morning. After that time, I think we'll get a better understanding of where the storm's going. The wind chill will probably dissipate, and then does this storm take off and become the next big time Gulf hurricane, or are we looking more at a minimal effect? Because I don't know what it is, but the Gulf has become the place for hurricanes, whether it be Harvey, Irma, Michael, all those 2020 storms, Laura, Ida, Ian. And by the way, why does every ice storm become a monster? Throw in Ivan, Isidore, Isabel, all these I names will retire, right? I mean, every ice storm becomes a monster. Irene hitting the Northeast in 2011. I'm like, how about we have a year with no eye hurricanes coming near the U.S.? Yes, I'd be okay with that. I mean, bottom, you know. And it seems like Florida is once again the hotbed of hurricanes. I mean, 2004, 2005, seven hurricanes. Charlie, Francis, Ivan, then I, and Gene hit Florida. Then in '05, Dennis, Katrina, and Wilma. And then Florida went over a decade before Hermine hit the Big Bend area in 2016. And then Irma, Michael, Ian, and now this storm. Are we in another active period for Florida? Why possibly? So hopefully, hopefully the people in low-lying areas evacuate because they've got to get out tonight before the traffic backs up, before the other bands get there. Particularly in Tampa, I mean, Lord knows how Hillsborough and Pinellas counties are going to evacuate the Tampa St. Pete area, but that is going to be a challenge. So, thank you for tuning into the stream. I mean, if we can get through Hurricane Ian, I think we can get through Idalia. I may or may not be back with more live streams, videos. Heck, I only slept for 15 minutes during Hurricane Ian. Looking back on it, which I'd done a live stream. But I might be doing a live stream. We set up nets came out back here, so hopefully we'll be able to keep track of any wind, rain, or critters penetrating the Schmettler household here in Bellaterra. So thank you. Hope and hopefully Florida can escape a major. Hopefully we can get through this hurricane quickly and safely.